Hello friends, welcome to Spring Boot JPA tutorial series. In this video, we will see what is Spring Boot JPA, Java Persistency API. So point number one, Spring Boot JPA is a module of Spring Boot that simplifies working with relational databases in Java applications. So, guys, what is the meaning of this line? JPA, Java Persistency API. So, we will develop a Spring Boot application, and that application we will develop to communicate with the database. So particularly in our context, we will use MySQL as a database. That means boot application will communicate with a database application. Suppose I have a boot application that suppose this is my boot application I will develop in STS environment, Spring Toolsuite environment, and this is my SQL database. Okay, so this is my boot application, Spring Boot application, and this is my Spring Boot application, and this is my database. Let my database we will consider that is my SQL. Okay, so I will open my SQL. Okay, so root is my default account. Password I will give. Okay, so this is my database environment. Now, whatever the boot application I will develop, so that boot application will communicate with a database application. So database means relational database. Relational database. So in MySQL environment, we will create a database. Create a database. Let create database name. Whatever the database name I will give. Suppose I will give suppose EMP underscore CRUD underscore DB. Okay, so one example I will consider that is nothing but our CRUD operation. Okay, create, read, update, delete. So I will show you the CRUD operation how it is, how we are developing. Okay, so that is representing what boot JPA. So I will give the clarity Spring Boot JPA by using CRUD operation. Okay, by showing CRUD example. Suppose I will create a database in my SQL environment. Create database name. Now I will hit run and I will do the refresh button. And here, so a database created. So inside the database, we will create a relational table. That relational table we will create by executing Spring Boot application. This Spring Boot application we will develop in STS environment, Spring Toolsuite environment. So we will develop a Spring Boot application, and when that boot application I will execute. So we will get relational database management of database. We can insert, we can update, we can delete, we can retrieve. So that's why I told not create, read, update, delete. So by executing a boot application, we are managing a relational database. Okay, so this is Spring Boot JPA. So it is part of the Spring Data project and provides seamless integration with the JPA, a standard Java API for object relational mapping. So here a new terminology came, object relational mapping. In Java context, so everything is nothing but a class. Suppose if I will take a class, let class employee some data member if I have int id string name double salary. So if this is my class property, okay, so we will see basically in both context. This is called as entity, one entity component that we have to develop. So how this class will map with a relational table. So in this context, a table will create name of the table is employee and here ID, name and salary three attributes. So here three column will create ID, name and salary. Okay. So this entity and this table, so a map is establishing, a relationship is establishing in between. So a table and a Java object. So the class employee having ID, name, and salary. Suppose three attributes. So when the employee object I will what represent that is called as Java object. Object representing class property, and this is a relational table. So a relational table and an object. So a map is establishing. So that is called as object relational mapping. Practically we will see. Okay. So we will develop an entity component. Then how a table is creating in our database. So everything that we will see practically. Okay. So I hope everybody is understanding. So this is a Spring Boot JPA. So it is a specification. So it is a module of Spring Boot specifically used to communicate with the relational database. We will see. So basically, what Hibernate is an ORM tool, object relational mapping tool. So Hibernate configuration we can do in Spring Boot, but nowadays, so Hibernate configuration Spring Boot is supporting automatically without explicitly what if we will not represent. So also it is working. We will see practically also. And if we want, so there is a file application.properties file. So Hibernate related configuration that we can put. I will come to that point. Okay. So this is all about Spring Boot JPA. Then what are the key features of Spring Boot JPA? So simplified configuration we will check. So automatically configures JPA when a supported database is detected. So in application.properties, when I will create a Spring Boot property, Spring Boot project, so there is a file. So under SRC main resources folder. So in application.properties file. So this is a such file which is containing what? Database related configuration we will practically we will see, and database related configuration we will represent in application.properties file or application.yml file. We can develop application.yml file, but we are what using or we are creating application.properties file. So second feature integration with Hibernate. So currently I was telling, so Hibernate configuration we can represent also in application.properties file. So integration with Hibernate repository. So when we will develop what entity component, after that we will create a repository component. So JPA repository. So when we will create, at that time I will explain in detail. So repository components, JPA repository containing some built-in methods, some properties. That method we will use to perform the CRUD operation. Query support. Query support. Yes, allowing to define custom or native SQL queries. Okay, by using at the rate query annotation, that also we will see in Spring Boot applications. So we will see. So how I will what represent, okay, a query by using at the rate query annotation. So that what boot JPA is supporting also this point. Similarly, transaction management, pagination and sorting, entity relationship, auditing. So everything. So we will what see practically by taking an example. So what we will do? First of all, we will create a Spring Boot project, and through that project we will see, we will get the clarity what about the CRUD operation. So as a result, we can understand about the concept of Spring Boot JPA in detail. So in my next video, we will start to develop a Spring Boot JPA project. Now we will see practically. We will see first of all, we will develop a project. So this is my STS environment, Spring Toolsuite environment. So you see how I am creating a project file, new Spring Flutter project. So project name, suppose I will give Spring Boot, let prod demo, Spring Boot CRUD example. Because my objective is I will perform CRUD operation, create, read, update, delete. So now I will choose Maven, version is 17, packaging jar, language Java. Okay, everything is okay. Group, suppose group ID is com.example. Okay, so artifact and project name is what, same description. So Spring Boot CRUD example, and my package name is suppose let com.silan. So in this way I filled. So then click on next button. Now this point is important. So here we will add some dependencies. So definitely, first of all, I will add Spring Wave because overall it is a web application. Some dependencies we will add, then DevTool dependencies. So already I have given the clarity in my first Spring Boot application development. Spring Boot DevTool dependencies, advantages. Suppose one boot application I developed, then I executed. After that, some changes. If I will do, then no need to republish again. So automatically it will republish. So this is the advantage of DevTool. Then we are what using Spring Boot JPA concept. So for this, there is a dependency Spring Boot is providing. If I will sort JPA, you see Spring Data JPA, and so one driver is requiring because the concept is saying so that Java application, Spring Boot application communicating with the database application. So for this, one driver is required. So that is MySQL driver. So this dependency also I will add. So this part is important. So these are the dependencies. It is mandatory that we have to add. Spring Wave, Spring Boot DevTools, Spring Data JPA, MySQL driver. Click on next option, then click on finish. Now a project structure is creating. Okay, so now one project created. Name of the project is Spring Boot Prod example. So that project structure is creating. It is taking some little bit time. Okay, so you see, so we created a project. Let the project name is Spring Boot CRUD example, and we had chosen Maven. That means one Maven types of project that we created. And you see there is a file pom.xml file which is one of the important file in this context. So what the pom.xml file is containing, whatever the dependencies we are adding, so that pom.xml file is containing. So if I will open pom.xml file, that we can see, so this is pom.xml file, and you see, so this is the Spring Boot Stator or Data JPA dependency. This is Boot Stator Web dependency, the tool dependency, MySQL connector dependency. So whatever the dependencies we are adding, so that is displaying in pom.xml file. And you see there is a folder src main java and a base package we have what have created, that is com.ceylon, and there is a folder src main resources folder, and in com.ceylon there is a file, so spring boot prod example application.java file. So regarding this already I have given for clarity. So in first Spring Boot application development. So first of all, in this context, we will develop application.properties file. So guys, where is application.properties file? So there is a folder src main resources. So under this folder, application.properties file that we can get. So this is the application.properties file that we have to develop. So application.properties file is a such file which will contain database related information, database configuration. So what is the database configuration? So database configuration means database username, database password, database name. Okay, so that we will represent in this file. So first of all, a database URL. Okay. So first of all, one parameter, some parameter we will represent. So how I will write Spring dot data source, Spring dot data source dot URL. So that is what. So JDBC colon MySQL colon MySQL colon, so double slash localhost colon, so 3306 colon, so our database name is emp underscore crowd underscore db, so my database name. So this is the URL. JDBC is protocol. MySQL is sub protocol. MySQL is database name. Localhost is the database server name. 3306 is the port number. So when you will install MySQL software, so you can get so port number, and this is my database name. So this is the URL, this parameter. Then username. So database username, default username is root. So same thing, spring dot data source dot username. So data source dot username, default username is root, and password. So next parameter is password. So at the time of MySQL installation, whatever the password you will give, that password you have to represent here. So my password is Silan @ 123. Okay, then next parameter is driver class name. Driver class name. Driver class name. So driver class name is particularly for MySQL database, that is driver. But that class I will get by going through a path, that is com dot mysql dot, okay, cj dot jdbc dot driver. Okay, so this is my database related information, or this is known as database configuration. So this information, what I did, I presented in application.properties file. Then some Hibernate related configuration that we will represent here, but nowadays boot is supporting Hibernate configuration automatically. Hibernate is nothing but an ORM tool, object relational mapping. So in my previous video already I have told Java object and relational table. So what a map is establishing. So for this, so JPA, we have code we have to write, that is representing Hibernate configuration. So Spring dot JPA dot Hibernate dot dialect equals to org one dialect. What MySQL dialect class we have to represent, but it is optional. If I will specify, if I will not specify, there is no problem. So that is com dot okay, org dot hibernate org dot dialect dot one class MySQL dialect. Newer version is MySQL 8 dialect. MySQL dialect or MySQL 8 dialect. Okay, so guys, one thing that I am doing, it will better what this line I am commenting. Okay, so without what this line we can run, there is no problem, because nowadays boot is supporting this Hibernate configuration. Okay, so one point I can write Spring dot JPA dot Hibernate dot JPA dot Hibernate Spring dot JPA dot Hibernate dot DDL hyphen auto equals to update. Okay, so DDL operation automatically update. So this line is representing. So DDL, data definition language. Okay, so data definition language meant for what, how to create a table, how to alter a table, and how to drop a table. So creating a table. So in my SQL environment inside the database EMP CRUD DB, so table will create automatically. When boot application we will run. So this line is representing that DDL operation automatically it will update. So this tool line for what Hibernate configuration it is representing. So one line I commented and this line I displayed. So this is all about application.properties file. So application.properties file overall what we knew, application.properties file is a such file which contains database configuration in detail. Database configuration in detail. Then we will go to the next point. The first component we have to develop that is entity component. So in boot context, some components we have to develop whatever the problem statement we have. So our problem statement is to perform fraud operation. So four components minimum we will develop for this context. One is entity component, one is repository component, one is service component, and one is controller component. So I will go to my base package. First of all, step number one, I will create an entity component. Entity. So right click on my base package, new entity is nothing but a class. Okay, so I will create a sub package com.silan.entity. Let my class name is employee. My class name is employee. Click on finish button. Okay, so entity. So one class created and file name is employee.java. Okay, so how this class I will consider as entity component. For this, one annotation I will use at the rate entity. Okay, so at the rate entity annotation representing the corresponding class employee is an entity component. So it is a built-in annotation. So I have to import the library. So automatically red color mark is coming when I will bring my cursor. You see automatically that import option is coming. You click. So corresponding library, that corresponding package I imported, from that package the annotation at the rate entity is coming. Now, so in employee class, I will take some data members, some properties I will represent. So it is nothing but in MVC context, if I will understand, so it is a model component. Okay, model component in MVC context, if I will see, and or it is a nothing but a what Java bin. So a class containing private data members and containing getter and setter methods. So if I will write private int id, private name string name. So whatever the data members you can take, private let double salary. Suppose three data member, three features, three attributes, whatever you say. So we consider. So my class name is employee. Now another annotation I will use. Why I will use this annotation, that is at the rate table. At the rate table. So at the rate table annotation, it is representing. So in a database, in MySQL environment, a table will create and table name will be employee. Okay. So this is my built-in annotation. I will import the corresponding package. So table name will be employee, but if we want, suppose we want to see the table name will be different, so explicitly you can represent also. Suppose I will write name equals to, okay, name equals to within double quotes employee, okay, info. Suppose one table, suppose I want to see the table name will be employee info, so explicitly you have to write within bracket name equals to employee info. Explicitly if you will write, then table name will be employee info. Otherwise, if you will not represent explicitly, the table name will be your class name employee. Okay, so one annotation at the rate entity and one annotation at the rate table we used. Then now the class name is employee containing three data members. One is ID, one is name, and one is salary. Now, one attribute I will consider as key attribute, because for employee class, a table is creating. We are discussing. So a table is creating. So once a table is creating by taking some columns. These attributes, what we'll consider as columns: ID column, name column, and salary column. And one column I want to represent as key attribute, because primary key, the column which is uniquely identifying a record, that is called as primary key. So because through a key attribute value we can represent, we can retrieve a record. So to represent one attribute as key attribute, for this one annotation I will use at the rate id. At the rate id, suppose this attribute I want to represent as key attribute. And second thing is, suppose I want to generate the value, id value, so automatically. So for this, there is also another annotation, generated at the rate generated value, at the rate generated value. Okay, so this is another annotation, so we can use. The meaning is what? So id value will generate automatically. Okay, and if within a bracket I will write strategy, one parameter, if I will specify strategy equals to generation type dot identity, automatically it is coming. Okay, so what is the meaning? So currently I told at the rate generated value generating id value automatically. Okay, so this annotation is used with JPA to specify how the primary key of an entity should be automatically generated. Okay, so ID value 1, then 2, then 3 sequentially, identity. So at the rate generated value, meaning is this. So what is the meaning of strategy equals to generation type dot entity? So this strategy relies on the database to generate the primary key value. It uses auto increment columns in the relational database, particularly in MySQL database. So each new record gets a unique incremented primary key values. 1, then 2, then 3, 4 in this way. Okay, so now at the rate id, so I will import at the rate id annotation, at the rate generated value annotation, I will import the corresponding package, then I will save. Okay, so when an employee object is persisted, the id field is quite left null in the application code. The database automatically generates the ID using an auto increment column. Okay, the generated ID is then set back to the employee object by the JPA provider. For example, Hibernate. So overall, you remember, so at the rate generated value, this annotation generating value automatically. Okay, which value? ID value, key attribute value. Okay, so then we will define getter and setter method. You go to source option in menu bar, you see generate getters and setters, select all, then click on generate. So you see getter and setter, getter method getting information, setter means setting information. It will be a good practice when we are representing or we are developing an entity component. So getter and setter, and again you go to source menu. So represent a zero arg constructor, represent parameterized constructors or value constructors, and represent a toString method. So constructor from super class. So this is zero arg constructor. Again go to source option, generate constructor using fields. This is parameterized constructor. Then go to source option, then generate toString method. Okay, so now this is my entity component. So one zero arg constructor we define, this is optional, but private data member and getter and setter method is mandatory, and this is parameterized constructor. If the usage will come to our picture, then we will use toString method representing the string representation of the class property. Okay, so guys, this is my entity component. So entity is employee. Okay, so it is nothing but a class containing three data members, three attribute, id, name, and salary. Then what I have done, getter method and setter method I have presented along with a zero arg constructor, parameterized constructor, and a toString method. So this is my entity component. Now we will develop repository component. So what is a repository? Okay, so you remember repository is an interface. So what we will do, I will go to base package, right click, new interface. I will create an interface. So I will create a sub package. Let com.silan.repository repository and repository name. Suppose I will give employee repository. Okay, click on finish button. So repository is an interface. Okay, so a repository interface is a special interface in Spring Data JPA that is linked to a specific entity. So particularly entity is our employee entity, that is employee.java. And it is a such interface that we extends, according to the concept, we extends JPA repository. JPA repository. Okay, so by extending JPA repository, so we can inherit powerful database operation methods for the employee entity without needing to implement them. That means what? JPA repository. So when I will specify, okay, so I will specify in this way. So within, because it is generic representation within angle bracket, so I will write my entity, that is employee class, and in employee class, so which attribute is the key attribute? ID attribute. And what is the data type of ID? Int. So int corresponding class, wrapper class is integer, because here it is demanding within angle bracket two class we have to specify. So one is employee, one is integer. So why integer I took? Because key attribute, I am repeating, key attribute, that is ID. ID data type is int. So here basic data type we cannot specify, only class we will specify. So the int int corresponding class name is integer. So that's why I specified integer. So now I will import JPA repository. I will import employee also. Okay, so this is my repository component. This is my repository component. Control S. Now I save. So what is the purpose of repository component? So first of all, repository, we knew it is an interface which extends JPA repository. Now employee repository is a child interface, JPA repository is parent interface. That means child interface employee repository can inherit the JPA repository properties. So the meaning is, so our problem statement is to perform CRUD operation. Suppose one point just I will say, one record I will insert or multiple records I will insert. So JPA repository have some built-in methods. JPA repository having some properties. So that properties I will use by employee repository object. That means some built-in methods JPA repository is containing. That built-in methods I will call by employee repository object. So because employee repository is a child interface. So in inheritance context, child what child interface have the ability to access parent property. So for this reason, we extended JPA repository. So this is overall repository component. Repository is an interface. We extends JPA repository. But strictly speaking, when JPA repository we are presenting, so it is a generic representation within angle bracket. So we have to specify two class. One is entity and one is what? Key attribute corresponding class. Okay, so this is repository. Now we will develop the service component. So guys, you remember service is nothing but a class. Okay, so I will go to my base package, right click, new class. I will make a soft package dot service. Let my class name is whatever you can give the package name, and class name is employee. Let I will give employee service. Click on finish button. Okay, so the class employee service. This class, how I will say it is a service component. For this, an annotation we will use, that is at the rate service. So at the rate service annotation representing the corresponding class employee service is a service component. So I will import the package. Okay, so what is the purpose of service component? So this is one of the key component in service component. We will represent our task CRUD, create, read, update, delete. Suppose my task is first I will insert a record. So this is my first task. Second task is I will insert multiple records. I will get all record. I will retrieve all records. I will retrieve one record based on the ID. I will update. I will delete. So whatever the number of tasks, that is the number of method definition that I have to do. That means service component is a such component where we will define methods. One method definition representing one task. Number of task, number of method definition. So in repository component, I was telling JPA repository containing some built-in methods, and that built-in methods I will call by employee repository object. So here in service component, you remember we have to take an employee repository object. Employee repository object. Let employee repository is my object. This and some configuration will require. So to resolve this, I will use at the rate auto wait. This annotation I will use. First of all, I will import the package. Employee repository I will import. So employee repository, guys, you are remember, give a focus. Repository object where I am taking in service component, inside the service component. Okay, so whatever the configuration is requiring, it is automatically configuring. Automatically, some configuration is wearing. So that is the advantage of at the rate auto wear annotation. So now, first I will define a method. That method is inserting a record into employee table, into employee info table. Okay, so first I will define a method. So method name, whatever you can write, there is no problem. You see in which way I am defining one method. So employee record will insert. So my return type, suppose I will give as employee. Let method name is I will take insert employee. Insert employee. Okay. So within a bracket, so I will take a parameter that is employee object. Employee object representing employee class property. Okay. So control S for saving. I will import package. So for employee, okay. So what I will write return, because return type should be employee, that I have specified. So object name is employee repository. Object name is employee repository. Dot, there is a built-in method. You remember save method. Save method is a built-in method coming from JPA repository interface. That's why we are invoking save method by employee repository object. Because employee repository is the child interface of JPA repository. So employee repository object can call save method. So what is the purpose of save method? Inserting one record, and within bracket I will write employee object. Control S. Okay, so employee repository, control S. You see, this one method I define. So this method definition is representing inserting one record. Similarly, if I want to insert multiple records, similarly another method I will define. Currently, I told number of task is the number of method definition. So multiple records if I will insert. So multiple records. So for this I will represent a collection. So let the collection is a list. So which type of data? Employee type of data. So in this way I can represent or I can take a collection. Let my method name is insert employees. Insert employees. Okay, so I will take an employees what list type of object. So within parenthesis, I will take list object list employees. Okay, so very simple. So what I did, another method I defined, that method name is insert employees. Return type is a list because multiple records I want to insert. So multiple records when I will assign into a collection. So definitely one collection I will take. So here I took list as our collection. So list I will import coming from java.util package. Okay, so for inserting multiple records, so there is a method save all method. So return repository object employee repository dot save all method, dot save all method. Okay, and within brackets that object list object I will take employees. Okay, so finish. So here second task representation completed. First method definition representing inserting one record. For this one built-in method, save method, we are invoking by employee repository object. Second method definition representing inserting multiple records, and for this wait save all method we are invoking. Okay. Now, my third task is next task is suppose I want to retrieve all the records from from employee info table. Okay. So all I want to retrieve. I want to get all records. So another no, another method I will define. Currently I told number of task is the number of method definition. So what I will write public. So collection, so which type of collection? Employee type of collection. Collection containing employee property. Suppose one method I will define let get employee. Method name whatever you can give. Okay, so there is a method for getting all records. You remember, for getting all records, there is a method find all method return. So employee repository object employee repository object dot find all method. So find all method when we are invoking what it is representing getting all records. So if I want to retrieve all records, find all method we have to call. If I want retrieve one record, if I want to get one record, so one record uniquely identified by the ID attribute. So here, so ID value I will take as parameter. So for this another method I will take define. So return type is employee. So get let employee by ID. Method name. In this way, I took get employee by ID. So taking ID value because already we have stored it. So ID attribute we have taken as primary key attribute. So through the ID attribute, we can retrieve, we can get a record uniquely. One record if I want to get for this method I am defining. So first of all, I will get ID. Okay. So there is a method find by ID. Okay. So return employee repository object, employee repository object dot find by ID. There is a built-in method of JPA repository, that is find by ID. First of all, by I will get ID, I will pass ID. Okay. So find by ID. Okay. So there is a method if I want to get one record based on the ID. So if I will not get, then I will get null. So I can write or else there is a method, it will return null. Automatically it is coming null. Okay. So this is my logic, business logic. So how many tasks we presented? This is one task, one record inserting. This is multiple records inserting. I want to get all records. I want to get one record. So in this way, four methods we defined. Now, then we will go for update. Okay. So update. So for update, so you recall normally what in generally how to update a record in SQL. If you know, it will be better. Okay, so for update, actually there is no method. Actually, there is no built-in method. We have to develop the logic. Okay, so first of all, what I will do. So very important point. So now one method I am defining for update public. Let return type is employee. Return type is employee. And my method name is suppose update employee. Okay. So now I am passing employee object. Passing employee objects. So what I will do first, because update means set. Update table name, set column name equals to update a value where condition. So this is the normal approach in SQL approach. So what I will do, first of all, I will get the ID, which record I want to update. Okay, so what I will do, employee repository object, in which way that I am developing the business logic. So you give the focus. Employee repository object currently I what we knew. So I invoked find by ID method. Okay, so in find by ID method, so what I will pass ID value I will pass, because first of all, which record I will update, that I have to know. Point number one. Then point number two, that record, first of all, I will bring into my picture. Then that record, how I will identify based on the ID value. So here ID I have not taken as parameter, I am taking employee object. So here ID value I will get how, by invoking getter method in employee.java. So there is a getter method, get ID method. Getter means getting information. So within bracket, so I will write employee object dot getter, get ID in this way. So I got ID. Okay. So once I will get ID, so based on ID, I will get a record. Then that record I will set, I will update, I will set some updated value. Okay, so if I will not get ID, then or else null, or else I will get null. So first of all, I got, and let I will assign into employee object. So first of all, ID value I got and I assign in a variable, whose type variable, employee type of variable or employee object. So once I got a record based on the ID value, then I will set. So I will set the updated value. So how to set? In employee.java, there is a setter method. So I can set by invoking setter. We have three attributes: ID, name, and salary. So set name, ID value, what the value is automatically what generating. So I will set the name, and if I want to update the name, if I want to update the salary, so I have to set the updated value by invoking setter method. Setter method is already available in employee class, so I can write e dot set name. Okay, so name value I will set, but first of all again I will get the name value. So how I will get the name value? Employee dot get name, employee dot get name, in this way. Then similarly I will set the salary, a dot set salary. Okay, so how I will get the salary? So employee dot get salary method. Okay, so this get salary method. Okay, so in this way I set, in this way I set. Then once I set the updated value, name value and salary value, then I will insert or I will save. So return type is employee. Okay. So employee repository dot save method. What? E employee object. Yes. So this is my business logic for updating a record, because there is no built-in method for updation. So I developed my business logic. So one method I defined. So first of all, I got ID value. Based on the ID value, so I got a record. So for this find by ID method I invoked. So how I got the ID value? By invoking getter method. So everything I assigned into an employee object. Then so once I got what ID value, then based on the ID value I got a record. Then once I got a specific record, then that record value I updated by the setter method, e dot set name set salary. So name value, how I am getting name value? By invoking get name. How I will get salary value? By invoking get salary method. So in this way, then after setting, after updating the value, then I will save. So already we have known save method representing one record for insertion. So employee repository object dot to save method. So this is for updation. Now this is my fifth task. So first one method, then second method definition, third method definition, fourth method definition, then fifth method definition. There are five tasks already I have presented. Then last task is I want to delete. I want to delete a record. So it is very easy. Delete. So delete, for this there is a built-in method delete by ID. So based on the ID value, so we can what? Delete a record. So one method for this I will define. Let return type I will take string. Okay, so let my method name suppose delete employee. Okay, so based on the ID, int ID. Okay, so I will what call a method employee repository dot, there is a method delete by id. There is a method delete by id. So within bracket I will pass id. So return type I specified as string. So definitely I will return a string value. So whatever you what wrote a message, employee record deleted. So in this way, I wrote employee record. Okay, so this is all about service component. So what we did in service component, so we developed what we defined six methods and each method definition representing one task. So one method representing one record insertion and one method representing how to insert multiple records. So if I want to get all records, if I want to retrieve all records, then for this one method I defined. If I want to get one record based on the ID values, for this one method I defined. Then for updating one method I defined. Then for deleting a record, one method I defined. So this is all about the service class. Now this is the method definition. Insert employee, insert employees. Okay, so these are get employee. So these are the method name, method definition. So when this method definition will execute, when this method we will call by employee service object, then where I will create, where I will take an employee service object in controller component. So in my next video, we will see the main component is our controller component that we will develop. So in controller component, so this method when we will call, then this definition will execute. Now we will develop the last component, that is controller component. So which is key component of this project. So first of all, I will go to my base package. So right click new class. So component, controller component is a class. So I will make a sub package dot controller. So let my class name is, I will give employee controller, then click on finish button. So now employee controller is a class. Then how this class we will say as controller component. So for this we have to represent one annotation, that is at the rate rest controller, at the rate rest controller. So the annotation at the rate rest controller representing the corresponding class employee controller is a controller component. So at the rate rest controller, there is also another annotation which is representing the corresponding class is a controller component. That annotation is also at the rate controller. So at the rate controller plus at the rate response body equals to at the rate rest controller. Another point is this annotation will deal with JSON data. So after controller component development, we will run, then we will test our application in one testing environment, that is Postman. So in that testing environment, we will know or we will communicate with the JSON data. So at the rate rest controller annotation representing the class employee controller is a controller component. Now I will import the corresponding package. Now what is the purpose of controller component? So what I told already, I have told in service component, inside the service component, whatever the methods we are defining, so that method I will call in controller component. So definitely employee service methods will call by the employee service object. So where I will take employee service object? So definitely in employee controller component. So, so first of all, I will take employee controller private employee service object. First of all, I will take employee service. Let my object name is employee service. So employee service object I took, and some configuration will require, but that configuration will be done automatically by preceding at the rate auto weird annotation. At the rate auto weird annotation. Now I will import the corresponding package. Okay. So this is the advantage of at the rate auto weird annotation. Some configuration is requiring, so that is automatically wearing, or that is automatically configuring. So now the purpose of controller component is what? You remember the purpose of controller component is to make endpoints. So what is endpoints? We will see now. And whatever the methods we have defined, so that methods we will call by employee service object. Then the method definition will execute. Now, the concept is saying this is my task, but whatever the task we will do, we have to do inside a method definition. So here in controller component, whatever the method we will define, so basically that is called as handler. So first of all, what inserting one record first, then inserting multiple records as per the number of tasks. So one by one I will call. So first of all, I am defining a method. Let public return type is string. Let the method name is insert. Okay, so I will take employee object. Okay, and this employee object. Okay, so I will employee class, I will import the corresponding package. So now this method definition, okay, so we will be preceded by an endpoint. You see, inserting one record. So here we will represent HTTP request and a HTTP request. So there are so many or many HTTP requests. One is like at the rate get mapping, at the rate post mapping, at the rate put mapping. So here inserting record, that means inserting. So request is a post request, posting information. So what I will do, I will represent a HTTP request that is at the rate post mapping, and within double quote I will specify, I will create an endpoint. Okay, so whatever I will write, suppose I will write insert employee. So this is my endpoint. So when I will run, okay, Apache Tomcat will run. Server is embedded. So with 8080 port number. So when we will run whatever the URL will generate, local host colon 8080, then if I will type slash insert employee, then this method definition will execute. Okay, so first of all, I will import the package, corresponding package for at the rate post mapping. And so one method I am defining, let the method name is insert, taking one parameter. That parameter is employee object. So this parameter I will preceded at the what with an annotation, that is at the rate request body. So why this annotation I presented here, and I will import the corresponding package. Why at the rate request body? Because it is used to bind the HTTP request body to a method parameter in controller components. So it is request body. So employee object is employee type of object. This object is containing employee class property, ID, name, and salary. So what is the purpose of this method? Purpose of this method is I will call I will call this method insert employee. You remember one point at the time of method definition, insert employee taking employee object as argument or as parameter. So when I will call by the employee service object, so definitely, so method call and method definition, what signature must be same. When I will call, so employee service, this is the employee service object dot method name is whatever the method we have defined here, insert employee. Insert employee within bracket employee object I will take. So at the time of method call, this is method call and method definition signature must be same. Signature must be same. Then here, since return type is string I have taken, so return. So a message, suppose we can write record inserted successfully. Record inserted successfully. Control S. So in this way, one method I called. Okay, so insert employee method we have defined inside the employee service class. That's why I invoked by the employee service object. So at the time of definition, it have taken employee object as argument. So at the time of call, I took employee object as argument. Since my return type is string, so that's why one string value, that is nothing but a one message, simply I wrote when I will run. So this message will display in the form of output. Then here within bracket one annotation I have used, that is at the rate request body. For the purpose, request body annotation used to bind the HTTP request body to a method parameter. Okay, and this is my endpoint. So inserting a record means posting, inserting a record, posting. So since it is a post request, that's why I have taken at the rate post mapping. This is for one test. Similarly, I will what do for next test. So basically, this method is called as a handler. Every method in controller component is called as a handler. Okay, then next method I will define next task is inserting multiple records. So I will take a collection, which type of collection, employee type of collection. Okay, one method let insert, suppose one method I define. So at the rate request, currently I told request body and collection list, which type of collection, employee type of collection. So one list object I took, so employees. Okay, so this now here also inserting multiple records. So definitely I will represent at the rate post mapping or post, it is a post request. Similarly, I will create an endpoint let slash insert employees. Control S. I will import list. Okay, so I will call which method I have defined for inserting multiple records, insert employees. So this method I will call by employee service object, employee service object. So I can write the return employee service dot insert employees. Insert employees. So this method, so automatically it is coming employees of what, this is a list object that already I have taken at the time of definition. So you see in employee service, so next method insert employees we have defined. Okay, then get employee method I will call. So here inserting one record, inserting multiple records, these two tests completed. Then we will go to next point. So I want to get all records. Next method is get employee, getting all records. So it is a get request. So at the rate get mapping, I will for directly suppose I will write at the rate get mapping. Okay, so endpoint I will create it. Suppose I my endpointed employees. So what I will do, I will define a method list, which type of list employee, because this task is what getting all records. Okay, so let my method name is find all employees, whatever the method name you can what define. So return employee service. This is my employee service object dot which method get employee method. Get employee method. Okay, so get employee method. So now control S. So at the rate get mapping, I will import the corresponding package. Okay, so in this way I completed. So this is my endpoint. Request is get request because getting records, getting information, get request, posting information, post request. So I called get employee method by employee service object. So get employee method we have defined inside the employee service class. Then another method I will call, so that is get employee by ID. Based on the ID value, one record I will retrieve. So this method I will call. So first of all, this is also getting information, getting one record. This is getting all record. Now I will represent getting one record. So it is a get request, get mapping. First of all, I will create an endpoint. So slash employee, whatever you can write, but based on the ID. So again, additionally, I will take an attribute. So in this way, we will write, you remember, endpoint slash employee slash ID. So I will define a method. I will define a method. Okay. So particularly one method I will define. Let my return type is employee. Suppose one record I want to retrieve from employee info table. So let my return type is an employee. So one method I am defining, find all find all employee by ID. Find all employee by ID. So within bracket, definitely I will take ID value as argument. But if this is my scenario, you remember, so based on the ID, so you remember if this is the scenario, based on the ID, I want to get a specific record, and for that in controller component, I am defining an handler and I'm creating an endpoint. So endpoint slash employee slash id value, then within a bracket int id also echo as parameter. So in this case, you remember one annotation you will use at the rate path variable. Okay, so for the purpose, this annotation is used to identify the specific resource. This ID value, when in my testing environment, I will put the ID value, so it will identify as a specific resource. Okay, so I will import the corresponding package, and so now I will call, so return employee service. This is the employee service object dot get employee by id, get employee by id. Finish. Control S for saving. So in this way, so for inserting one record, for inserting multiple records, getting all records, getting one record based on id, so we completed, for this we completed four handler and four endpoints also we created. Then we will go for update. So you remember, for updating, so the request is put mapping. So at the rate put mapping for updating. So which request for updating? So which annotation we will use? It is put request or put mapping. So let my endpoint is suppose last update, whatever you write. And for this one method, I will define public. Let my return type is employee. And okay, so one method I will define. Suppose let my method name is update employee, and within a bracket employee object I am taking. So it will consider the request body employee. Okay, and what I will do, I will call a return employee service object dot which method. So you see in employee service, which method? Update employee. Okay, so update employee. So here related to update employees, suppose, or update emp. Let my method is this. So update method name is employee. Okay, and within bracket, so I will pass employee object. So now at the rate put mapping, for this annotation, I will import the corresponding package. So in this way, update task completed. Then I will go to delete. So for deletion of a record, the request is at the rate delete mapping. You remember, at the rate delete mapping. At the rate delete mapping, and within a bracket I will create an endpoint delete. So delete, already for that I have written the business logic in service component. So for deletion, how we are deleting a record based on the id. So here same way, so within curly bracket, so I will take id. So one method I will define, let public return type is suppose string. Suppose one method I will define, let delete employee. Okay. And so ID. So here you see, once this type of endpoint we have created, so at the rate path variable, this annotation again we have to write here. Then I will call the method return employee service. This is the employee service object dot delete employees method. You check. So which method? Delete employee. delete employee method. Delete employee method. I will call. Okay. So let it suppose my method name is delete emp. So this method I will call. Okay. So this. So I will import delete mapping. I will import the corresponding package. So in this way, the controller component we developed. So one, two, so I think there are six tasks. This is inserting one record, inserting multiple records, getting all records, getting one record based on the ID, updating record and deleting record. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There are six number of tasks. So for this, we had written business logic in service component. So all the methods we invoked by the employee service object in controller component. So in controller component, what we did, we defined handler, we created endpoints. So every whatever the methods we have defined, so every method, one endpoint we have created. Okay, so this is all about what controller component. Okay, so now in this way we developed entity component, that is employee.java. Then we developed repository component, that is employee repository.java. Then we developed service component, that is employee service.java. Then we developed controller component, that is employee controller.java. So now everything is complete. We completed all the components: entity, repository, service, and controller. So now we will run. Now we will run our application. So how to run a Spring Boot application? Right click on the project, run as Spring Boot app. Okay, we will see. And you see Tomcat started on port 8080. So Tomcat is our server. Basically, this is web server. So this server is embedded. There is no need to configure this server explicitly. So this is one of the main advantage of Spring Boot. Okay, so in this way we executed. Okay, we will check our database. Just I will do the refresh button. You see, my database name is emp underscore CRUD underscore db. So I did a refresh, just simply I did refresh. So a table created. You see, employee info table created and column ID, name, and salary. So table have created automatically because already we have written in entity components in employee.java at the rate table annotation we had specified, and the table name explicitly we have specified employee info. So that's why table name is employee info. If I want to see, so use database name describe table name employee info. I will hit run. So this is my table structure. So now I will open Postman environment. This is my Postman environment. What is Postman? In Google, if I will type Postman, if you will type Postman, okay. So you see, this is a testing environment. So you can download Postman very simply. You can download. First of all, you will do a sign off, free sign off. Then you can download this Postman environment. Postman. So already I have downloaded. This is Postman. This is Postman. Very simply, you can download Postman. And once you will download, simply you click. So it's simply you click, just it will open. Okay. So first our task is what? I will go to controller component. I will go to controller component. First, I will insert one record. I will insert one record. So in which way we will test our application? Again, I am repeating. So in our context, we are using Postman. So what is Postman? A testing environment. Okay, for Spring Boot application. So whatever we developed Spring Boot application, now we executed. After execution, we will test. So first of all, we will insert one record, and this is my endpoint. Now I will copy. I will go to Postman environment. So localhost colon 8080 slash, this is my environment endpoint slash insert employee. You see there are so many requests, HTTP requests. So my requirement is post because I am inserting one record. So it is posting information. So from different requests, I will select post. Okay, then I will go to body, and you see when I will click on body, so there is an option JSON is coming. There are so many options. If other option will display, then you select JSON. Now in JSON format, we will put data. So ID, name, and salary. You see in employee.java ID value generating automatically. One is name and one is salary. So I can write in this way name. Okay. So in this way, let John Day, suppose John Kumar, then comma, then next attribute salary, suppose 35,000. In this way, so I can what represent. This is the JSON format. So since this is the last attribute, there is no comma. Okay, now I will click on send option. Okay, you see output we got record inserted successfully. You see, you go through the controller component and you have written record inserted successfully. We will check. So in Postman environment, we what tested and we got the output record inserted successfully. Now we will go to the database environment and we will check whether that record have inserted or not. So how I will check? Select star from table name. Now I will hit run. You see, so record inserted ID value generating automatically, that is one, name is John Kumar and salary is 35,000. I hope everybody got clarity how we are testing. Then my second point is second package, I will insert multiple records. So for multiple records, okay, so my endpoint is slash insert employees. So here I will specify my endpoint. Okay. So slash insert employees. This is my URL. So this URL representing which method definition execution, this method. Okay. So now I will insert multiple records. So multiple records, if I will insert, this is also post request. So in this way, so before that, so then this So within JSON format that we have to write, then again this. Okay, so JSON format, it will be better in this way. Okay, so name, let it suppose Rakesh Misra, and salary suppose 80,000. Okay, then name. Okay, so Pramod Behera, or let salary 45,000. Okay, so if multiple records, two records, three records, more than one multiple. So in this way that you have to represent. So this is the JSON format. So curly bracket begin, curly bracket end, then comma, then curly bracket begin, curly bracket end, then square bracket end. Okay, so now I will click on send option. And you see, so a record have inserted. So we will check my database. So in MySQL environment, if I will run this select statement, select star from table name, I will hit run. You see, so two records have inserted. So you see ID value generating automatically. Two Rakesh Misro 80,000, three Pramod Behera 45,000. So we tested successfully for inserting multiple records. Then we will go to controller component. Now we want to get all records. So all record getting information. Very simple. My endpoint is slash employees. I will copy. I will go to Postman environment. First of all, I will change my what request get request. Okay, so I will represent my endpoint slash employees. So this is my URL localhost colon 8080 slash employees. Now I will click on send option. And you see, I will get all records. ID 1, name John Kumar, salary 35,000. ID 2, name Rakesh Misro, salary 80,000. ID 3, name Pramod Behra, salary 45,000. Okay, so in this way, we saw how to get all records. Then I will get one record based on the ID value. So my endpoint is slash employee. So my endpoint is slash employee slash suppose one ID value. Suppose I will give. So now we have three records and ID is one, ID value is two, and another ID value is three. So one ID value I provided. So in this way I presented localhost colon 8080 slash employee slash 2, and it is my get request. I will click on send option, and you see I will get a specific record. So based on the ID value, so I got name value and salary value, because ID attribute we have considered as key attribute, and we know that based on the key attribute one record is uniquely identifying. So in this way, getting all records and getting one record that we tested successfully. Then we will go for update. So for update, you see, so the request is a put request. That's why annotation at the rate put mapping annotation we have used. So slash update. So I will go to my Postman environment. So my endpoint I will specify slash update, and here also request I will change put. So what I will do, one record, suppose this part, suppose I will copy here and I will paste here. So first of all I got based on the based on ID I got this record. Now So the salary value, suppose I will change 95,000. So in case of update, first of all, based on ID, we will get a record, and after getting record, then which attribute value we will change, that updated value we set. First of all, I got this record based on ID, so that in that record, which column value I will change, I will update, so I set. Now I will click on send option. So you see, so it updated 95,000. It was 80,000. So after updating, now the value is 95,000. So in this way, so updation test that we tested successfully. Then last point, we will go to delete operation. So for delete operation, so request is a delete request. So based on the ID. So similarly, I will go to my Postman environment. Class delete is my endpoint. Postman environment slash delete, and my request is delete request, and slash, suppose I will give the ID value 3. So based on the ID value, that the corresponding record will delete. Now I will click on send option. You see employee record deleted. So in controller component, employee record deleted. So you see record. Okay. So when this is my URL, when I click, so I will click on send our what button. So I got this message. We will check. Now I will hit run. You see, so three, that third record deleted. Third record deleted. Okay. So in this way, we tested successfully all the tasks, inserting one record, inserting multiple record, getting all records, getting one record based on ID, updating one record, then deleting one record. So in this way, we tested successfully everything, and this is all about Spring Boot JPA. Thank you.